Uh, this is also, I think, one of the first times that we had this, I want to call it rock, paper, scissors meta game with Drake's elementals and gates being the very clearly defined top decks, and the rest of the meta game trying to see if they can break into that top three or break down that top three. Um, Here we have elementals facing off against gates. Last time it was Drakes against gates in the top eight. So let's see if Gates can take home another competitive leaderboard or if there is another one. Boros beats Drakes and Gates but loses against Elementals. Um, we've seen, yeah, Boros doing pretty good things here as well, but it looked like our Boros player struggled in the early parts of the event, so didn't manage to solidify a position uh, there. So I'm really interested to hear if other meta games, people from other meta games are here, if they have any input um, about how, especially Gates is positioned in their meta game. Yeah, Boros has a tendency, has the capabilities to beat decks that rely on small amounts of creatures, but usually struggles against decks that go really wide. We've seen Boros decks have issues with the second draw uh, decks versions of blue red spells as well. How many Okos? I think we have two Okos. One in a Gates deck and one in this version of Elementals. So pretty manageable, and both were both decks were built by the same player. Uh, so yeah, Oko is really good in this meta game as well, uh, especially because it's uh, very rough on Gates players, turning their Gate Colossi and their Gatebreaker Rams into little elks uh, is going to be very nice. When is the Oko ban expected? A lot of people are expecting it on Monday. So there's a band announcement then, and I'm expecting something to happen there. Dylan, in the meantime, has been mulliganing. I think he's down to 5 cards. Yeah, he's down to 5 cards here. And we are ready for the final match of the Gentry competitive leaderboard here in Ghent. Laurent on Black Gates versus Dylan on Time Twister Elementals. Whew, that was a lot of time to fill with my blabbering. I'm sorry for to all the people that had to live through that. And we have lands coming into play tapped. Laurent, one of the few players I've seen that has basic mountain uh, in their deck as well. Seems to be valuing getting an early Gates Ablaze quite highly as well. And Dylan is the first one to commit to the board. Cloudkin, Seer uh, gets answered by a growth spiral from Laurent. I'm not sure why the Cloudkin was off centered, but it was. And now the turn 3, the actual game starts in this Clash of Titans. You see Laurent holding uh, Guild Summit, Gates Ablaze. I think it's going to be, yeah, Guild Summit. Most decks do not have an answer to this in the main board. One of the few ones would be Sultai Control, if they are still making space for Thrashing Brontodons. So, card advantage deck velocity wise, this is very much a Risen Reef versus Guild Summit match. Uh, if both people get their engines, then things tend to be fair. Uh, if only one of them get their engine going, then or can disable the other one's engine, then things degenerate very, very quickly. So Laurent has the Guild Summit and is opting, looking for things to impact the board. A Ram, a Gate Colossus, just to put pressure on Dylan. Gate Colossus especially is a very scary card for Dylan's deck, as it is capable of just outclassing pretty much any non-rare or mythic creature that Dylan plays. There's almost nothing in his deck that can even block a Gate Colossus with that ability that says that creatures with power 2 or less can't block it. Excuse me. It's a bit of a yawn. So Laurent, not sure what's going on here. Yes, he drew from the Guild Summit. I think he played the second land. Yeah, he played an extra land. I'm not sure if he drew the card off it already. Yeah. So a second land for turn was played. The judge just checking to make sure they have the story straight. So, root cause of what went wrong here is playing a second land. That means the draw should be a rewound, and then the land should be returned to hand. Not sure what's still taking them. So, since not much is going on back there, let's have a little chat so far. So, we have Laurent on that Guild Summit. It's grinding out the card advantage. His opponent, Dylan, has not found or has not committed a Risen Reef to the battlefield yet, which means he is going to be falling behind. Now, the Risen Reef will eventually outclass a Guild Summit. That's not really a discussion. But apparently, I'm being called for an intervention. He played the second land. Ja, ja. Hij heeft eerst een kaart getrokken. Dus hij heeft een kaart getrokken van de opt en dan nog een kaart getrokken en een landje gespeeld. Uh, ja, game rule violation en hidden card. Ja. Okay. Apparently, things were a little bit more creative than we thought they were. He didn't just play an extra land. He resolved a Fathom growth spiral after he finished resolving the Opt. So after the Opt was resolved, so he scryed, drew a card from the Opt, then drew a card and put a land into play. So a non-existent growth spiral was resolved. We're going to rewind both of these. So that's a since technically he made one mistake, yes, but there's no way in the game to see what's going wrong. So we sort of need to treat this as two mistakes. One is playing a second land this turn, and the second one is drawing a card when he's not supposed to. So uh, it's going to be a game rule violation and then a hidden card error for the card that was drawn extra. That's my trade. Go ahead. So the land should go back first, and then we hidden card error it. So we see Meteor Golem, Krasis, and Gates Ablaze, and a bunch of lands. Dylan noting down the hand. Pretty sure he doesn't really care about the extra gate. Maybe choosing one of the other ones. Oh, that was a guild summon actually. Oh, yeah. But he put it on top of the deck and it should have been shuffled away. Anouk? Okay, so that was a bit messy. Just to make sure, that Guild Summit will get shuffled away. It does just go to the top of the deck. If it were the other way around, and he had played the land and thought that because he played the land, the Guild Summit would shuffle, then one would have been a consequence of the other. And in that case, you would just put the card back on top. That's not the case here. And it would have been a random card. It wouldn't have been a card selected by the opponent. So we are back to a legal state. We're still in Laurent's turn, and we will be continuing on. So Laurent drew a card of Guild Summit, then opted. You're welcome. And we are back. Laurent didn't want to play anything else, but now we know what he has in his hand. Dylan also knows. So that was Meteor Golem, um, Gates Ablaze, and Hydroid Crisis. Cloud Seers, Cloudkin Seers coming in. And now Dylan knows what he needs to play around. He's still playing the Risen Reef here. Next up, Gentry Pioneer. We already had this discussion today. It's very unlikely that Gentry is going to expand beyond anything than standard. It's hard enough. There's just too much splintering going on with formats already. that it's hard to keep enough interest in the standard version of Gentry. Seems like every 2 year we have this discussion, like, oh, shouldn't we do modern as well? And yeah, no, I think Tom DeWaal gave the best answer to that when he said that it's supposed to be a fun and entry level format for new players, and just fragmenting it and its community further isn't really going to help it. So, Risen Reef for Dylan, and we're back to Laurent. Plays a gate, draws a card of that Guild Summit. And Gates sets the gates ablaze, wiping away 3 creatures that had replaced themselves. So technically, Dylan hasn't lost anything. Gates Colossus comes down after everything is done. Gate Colossus, ready to be a problem. 3-turn clock for Laurent. And Dylan has to rebuild. He committed that Risen Reef to the board, knowing the Gates Ablaze was in hand. So Dylan can neoform out another Risen Reef here. So we see a Yarok's Wake Crasher in hand. And this board it's just a 4/4. And Laurent answers with a note. We've seen lots of opting so far. It's also the only non-mythic creature that Dylan has that can block a Gate Colossus, I think. Ah, no, the Rumbling Ruin as well. So, Laurent, we know that. Yeah. So, Laurent has that Krasis in his hand. Also has the Meteor Golem, but that seems like a bit of a waste to use it on a lowly 4/4. Krasis for 6. That's not so bad. So, hits for 8, puts Dylan on 14. What's the follow up, Laurent? Is it Krasis? Is it Ram? Oh, he drew the mass manipulation as well. And he has 4 blue mana available. Just throw out Krasis here, draw 3 cards. Yep. I'm inclined to agree with this decision. 6/6 Krasis. It's funny how this used to be such a ubiquitous card in the deck, and now is being debated whether or not it's still relevant. So X6 crisis. And Dylan needs to answer here. We know he has, yes, a risen reef. But we need more. What's the follow up? No fourth land. And do remember, this is a mulligan to 5 from Dylan in this match. Passes the turn here. So there is 14 power on the table for Laurent. If he can get rid of the Wake Crasher and Dylan has no further interaction, that is already game. And we know he has the Meteor Golem. Meteor Golem. 7 mana. Yep, that's 7. And that's a scoop. Game 1 is over for in favor of the Gates deck. So let's see. As mentioned before, Laurent does not have much of a sideboard. He has 3 negates and 4 duresses to bring in. Both cards that will fight uh, the wrong kind of cards. He is bringing them in though. That looks like 3 negates to fight against the uh, probably to fight against the counter spells he's expecting to come out for Dylan. Now Dylan has 4 negates of his own on site, 2 unsummons, 2 no escape, 2 run away together, 2 return to nature, and 3 Cosmina's transmutation. All cards that in some way or another are good against uh, the Gates deck. So it's more about seeing how much he wants to dilute his main strategy than it is about what he wants to bring in. Currently, he's hovering 5 cards. I think that's No Escape and Cosmina's Transmutation at this point. No, that looks like Runaway Together as well. So I see, is it 4 cards? No Cosmina's Transmutation? No. Runaway Together and No Escape versus 3 negates that were boarded in for Laurent. Laurent is whew, 1-0 up in this match, in this final match in the Gentry competitive leaderboard. Will Gates secure a second buy for the upcoming Gentry Open, or will Elementals reverse sweep this match? As we shuffle up for game 2. Opening sevens. Dylan again mulliganing. A new opening seven for Dylan. Does he find no lands? I think not a single land. Again goes down to five. Okay, five cards. At least there's lands this time. Okay, grazing. Arboreal grazer to start things off with. Leafkin Druid for Dylan. Both players getting their acceleration here. Dylan does not have access to blue mana at this time. 4 mana. Scampering Scorcher. This is as much desperation attempt as I think elementals can go. This Scampering Scorcher is not in there to be a turn 4 attacker. It's there to abuse Risen Reef's triggers. Laurent, Laurent currently no access to red mana, but has a gold cement. And the land to start the draws off with. And that produces red mana as well. Blue land for Dylan. Attacks with everything. Does some chip damage as well. I think there's a Cloudkin Seer and a no escape in hand for Dylan. The good news is that no good news. There's a Gate Colossus that could be hitting now. Well, Gate Colossus could hit if he has one in hand here. There's also double Gates Ablaze in hand. But no, Gates Colossus just before Dylan has access to blue mana. Has that no escape in hand. 2 green mana. Drew a Neo form. So he can get, yes, he can get, can choose to get either a Risen Reef or sacrifice the Scampering Scorcher to get one of his mythics here. The Cavalier does pump itself No, he only has 3 mana left, so it doesn't even pump itself to big enough to take out a Gate Colossus. But apparently, Dylan thinks there's another option. No. Neoforms goes to find Risen Reef. I know he does have 4 mana left. So that was an option he had available to him. +1/+1 counter from the Neoform. Trigger from the Risen Reef. And we have a Leafkin. Carrier for a Risen Reef trigger. 2 mana left. But Laurent has the Gates of Blaze to set Dylan back into the Stone Age here. Doesn't have a land to follow up with though. But the question raises, what should he be afraid of coming out of Dylan next turn? Gates ablaze, wipe your board, and that's the straight up handshake from Dylan. Laurent wins the Gentry leaderboard here. He gets to take home one of the playmats. He gets a buy to the upcoming Gentry Open, and he gets to solidify Gates as probably, obviously, the best deck in the format. Dylan wins a deck box and a pack of sleeves. Laurent gets the playmat. Congratulations to Laurent. I hope everybody here enjoyed them. Have a look at this event. We will be posting another article with at least the top 4 deck lists and maybe a little look at some of the interesting deck lists in addition to that as well. So go to gentrymagic.com in the future days of future near, to see that. If you're interested in Gentry, you're always free to check out any of the locations where they play Gentry. There's leaderboards on the website there that also describe when and where Gentry is being played, as well as a link to the Magic Arena Gentry Discord, where you can challenge people and join events just like that as well. Um, Other than that, hey, if you're close to Ghent, if you're in Flanders, if you're in Belgium, come to Ghent any Thursday night, Outpost Ghent. We have the League of New and Beginning Magic players. You can learn how to play Magic, but you can also come down here to play some Gentry. There's usually a few people that bring decks. If I'm there, I'm usually bringing a gauntlet of anywhere between 3 and 6 decks. Depends on what I'm brewing at that point. Um, so everybody, welcome there as well. That's all for today, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.